Today, we are going to learn a new opening. It's the Vienna Opening. It also follows the E4 E5 line. And the speciality about this opening and why I urge you to learn this is because it has a lot of traps and potholes and something like that. So it is I think traps and tricks are really special for beginners, and we always have fun learning them. So that is why Vienna Opening is something that you will enjoy. So the Vienna Opening, as I mentioned before, begins with E4 E5, and like from here, white has a lot of options, either to bring the bishop out, or to be, the most two popular options are to bring the bishop out or bring the knight out. But we have another option, and that is to play knight to c3, and this is the Vienna game. The intentions of the Vienna game are to firstly protect on the e4 knight, e4 pawn, rather than targeting on the e5 pawn of the opposition. And the two most common responses to the Vienna game are either playing knight to c6 or playing knight to f6. So we'll consider both possibilities, but let's choose one of them first. So firstly, I want to show you the entire line with knight to f6. So here the branching starts. The Vienna game has started, and we are on our first branch of playing knight to f6. And the since I talked to you, since I promised you that there will be many traps and potholes here, let's consider the first one, and that is the Vienna trap or the Vienna Gambit. We play f4, and you might already see that f4 might be a little risky. Why? Because this entire, I mean, the pawn on the f5 are something that we usually not play, at least in the starting of the game, because always and always there is the risk of the queen coming onto the h-file and bringing on that wayward queen attack or something. So, but worry not, f4 right now is not really risky. In fact, the engine shows me that the position are absolutely equal in both for both white and black. And now the thing is that when you give someone a game bid, you really want them to accept that game bid because you have planned around that thing. But the opponent might, really choose to play d5 or something. But we are not going along that line right now. Right now we are considering that what if the opponent does take on that pawn. So if e takes f4, then we have something to play along. So firstly, look at this knight. Look at this knight and look where could it go to. He came from the square of g8. He cannot come here, he cannot come here, he cannot come here. And if I really move this pawn, he can't even come here. So the knight in the middle of the board is forced to be pushed back. The knight has to go back because any other place is absolutely blocked, and no matter where he comes, I'll have the knight. So yeah, that is the first advantage of playing the Vienna Gambit. You push the opposition back. Yeah, there are two options. One option is to maybe bring the queen onto the e7 and then really pin this pawn to not take this knight. We'll consider that as well. But for now, let's say that knight does decide to go back to g8. So from here, you really want to continue our game, and I really want to keep the Vienna opening something that is memorable for you. I don't want you to remember everything in a mugging way. So, I mean, imagine what would be your next move if you were playing the Vienna game and you did not know anything about the next move. Well, I guess knight to f3 is a pretty natural move. Why? A, because you are developing. B, because you are protecting the spawn. And C, because you are blocking this check that was really deadly for us. So yeah, knight to f3 is an absolutely best move to play right now. But now the opponent can do a lot of things. So if you have played knight to f3, the opponent, of course, no opponent likes the opposition pawn sitting on the center square, and in fact, in their side of the board. So I am sitting on e5 square, and black clearly does not like it because this thing is not being able to develop, and this bishop cannot come to the d6 square and something like that. So no one likes my pawn on the on e5, and that is why they will try to challenge me, and they'll play d6. Now here is the thing: I'm not going to take it, and in fact, I'm going to make the move d4, and d4 definitely does look fine to me because I'm targeting this pawn. I am, protecting this pawn on e5, and I'm opening the file for the bishop as well. Yeah, sure, targeting the pawn, but opening the file for bishop as well and controlling more center. Now, if the opponent does decide to take on my e5 pawn, I'm not going to take it back, but rather I'm going to just check with the bishop. Now, here's the thing about this. Um, like when I have checked with the bishop, I really intend, black to play c6. And like c6 is a pretty common move, and nothing goes wrong for black right now. And we'll just come back and sit here. And now, once we have done so, the opposition will definitely take on my pawn. It's a free pawn to take. And in fact, even threaten my knight to move away. Surely I could have taken on this pawn, but yeah, that is why it is not a free pawn. But I'm not going to take on this pawn right now, but rather I'm going to make the move. Bishop takes f4. And here comes the trap. The thing about this trap is that if the opponent is smart and he does not want to lose, then I mean, if he is not greedy enough, then he'll play queen to e7 and really give me a check and try to not get lured into the trap. But a new opponent, a beginner player, will have the greed to take on this knight. And that is when they start losing the game entirely. Because now you have a lot of moves to make. Firstly, you can do bishop to f7 check. And you can clearly see why bishop to f7 is a good move because the king cannot take the bishop because the queen can take the queen. And that is why bishop to f7 check is really good. And in fact, if the king even tries to save himself by making the move e7, that is the only possible move where he could be saved, right? Because he can't come here and taking the bishop isn't an option for him. We can still take the queen, but taking the queen will have a different fashion. No, I'm not talking about this pin because this knight can come here. So that is not the correct idea. But rather, the winning move for you will be to play queen to c2. Why? Because, yeah, let's consider every single possibility for black. Nothing here. Yeah, the only possibility where the black king could move on the left will be d7, and on the right will be either f6 or maybe take on the bishop on f7. Yeah, these are the three possibilities, and then there is one more possibility of blocking it with the bishop. Well, blocking it with the bishop is obviously bad because I take on the bishop, and then it will be checkmate. So yeah, blocking it with the bishop will be extremely bad. Again, going back to here will also be a checkmate with the same exact move. So these two moves are bad. If king does try to come to here, then I have this pin hanging now. Earlier, the knight could come in between, but now the king itself is sitting here, so I don't have any problem. And the king will move out, and I'll have the queen, and in fact, even get a checkmate. So there is that. And the third line, of course, is to take on the bishop. Now, taking on the bishop might seem fine on the first look, but the problem lies with the knight to e5 check. Because knight to e5 check really blocks you in some of the ways. So, for example, if the king does decide to come on the e5, I will give him a discovery check and then take away his queen from there. So, and I mean, you might argue that the queen could come to e7, but then I'll have the queen on e7 with my knight. My knight is hanging there, and yeah, I'll have my queen safe. So this move are all bad. This move isn't really possible. The only move left is king to f6. So you have brought king to f6 now. Now, in this position, all you want to do is give bishop to g5 check. Why would you want to give bishop to g5 check when the bishop is not at all supported? Well, the only option for black, black will take on the bishop, right? No. If black does decide to take on the bishop, then I will play king knight to f7 and have this triple fort, targeting the king, the queen, and the rook at the same time. And wherever the king goes, if the king goes, let's say to g6, then I'll have the queen for free, and yeah, I'm completely winning. Although the opposition does have a +1 material advantage, and in fact, the opposition is going to have a +2 material advantage right now. But my queen is out, and my rooks will be out in one or two moves, and my knight is just sitting there. and I'll have every single piece of the opposition in no time. So let's go back a little and let's try to differentiate ourselves in the other branch. So yeah, where did we branch off? We branched off when we offered the opposition this pawn, and the opposition did decide to take on this pawn, and then I made the move e5. So from e5 is where the branching started, the second layer of branching, and we claimed that black had only two moves, two possible good moves, either knight to g8 or queen to e7. So we discussed knight to g8. Now let's come to queen to e7. The problem with queen to e7 is that I can't really take on the knight on the f5, and that is why the most good solution would be to just the queen to e2, removing this pin so that if the knight still stays here, then I'll have the knight and you can't do anything. You can take my queen and I'll take the queen back with the knight, in fact, even developing a piece. And that is why the only possibility for this knight is still g8 because again, these squares are all blocked. So that is why this knight will definitely go on g8, that you can be sure of. And at this position, you still want to defend this h4 square because this queen is going to come here and give me a check and in fact even develop my own pieces. So yeah, those are the two possible moves that I can play here, either d4 or either knight to f3. Let me play knight to f3 right now because I don't really want this check. Once I have done so, then I can really get into another trap sort of a thing. Now, once you have your knight out, you really are thinking about what might be the opponent's next move. Well, in most cases, the opponent will still play d6. Why? Because they still hate this pawn on the e5 central square, and that is the weakness. If they play d6, then you are in an extremely good position because now you are not going to take on this pawn and then have the queen exchange. No, no, no. You didn't get all this build up for having queen exchange. Rather, you will play knight to d5. And knight to d5 is also intuitive, right? Attacking the queen. I mean, that's the next best thing you could do after giving a check. Attacking the king, attacking the queen. And there is virtually nothing the opposition can do. Take on this pawn, I will take on the queen. If you decide to maybe sideline the queen, you might think that's a good idea. No, it is not. Why? Because then you you can really see that this entire Vienna Gambit or the Vienna game lines along the queen giving a discovery check or the queen having an open file to the opposition queen. And this is why this is really good. It's simple. It's easy to play. It's quick. You don't go down. I don't know how many 20 lines to have a gambit or something, but rather it happens on the seventh move or the eighth move or something. So this is why once the queen moves away, your entire target is to take on this pawn. And there is nothing the opposition can do. He might, in fact, the opposition might be confused that, am I winning? If Black is a really, a newbie player, then he might think he's winning because I'm offering him a free knight. And the moment he takes on this free knight, I'll give him a discover check, and there is nothing you could do. You could come to e7, but I'll have your queen with my pawn, and in fact, even you know, have you take on my pawn and waste my other move. So yeah, and if you just simply move slide away, then I'll take on your queen either ways. So you can really see that playing d6 was a bad idea for black, but black would not have realized it's a black idea if he has not really either thought through 4 or 5 moves ahead or has not seen this video. So you could go along, you might have a different opponent who does not play d6 immediately, but rather, really plays knight to c6. And that attacks the pawn on e5 as well. And yeah, so the classical response for it would be to play d4. Again, you can see why d4 is really good because d4 guards the pawn on e5. d4 is already guarded by our knight, and this pawn, the attack on this pawn is also there. So d4 is obviously the best move. Here, again, the opponent does have the option of making d5, but usually opponents play d6. And this is the bad move here. If your opponent plays d6, then you can go along the same line that we discussed earlier, because again, taking on d6 really opens the file for the king queen attack, and this queen is under attack. If the queen moves here, then you know what, you know the drill that I'm talking about, and I'll have the queen for free. So yeah, this was one of the lines in the Vienna Gambit. But yeah, we have more chances. We'll see. So we saw the Vienna Gambit accepted, but again, we need to see everything. We need to see the Vienna Gambit declined as well. So yeah, this was the move where I played f4, and I really offered this pawn for free to the opponent, and in fact opened the king file as well. Well, the responses from the opponent. The best response from opponent is to play d5. The second best is to play d6, and the third best is to actually take it. But if the opponent does decide to make another bad move, that is knight to c6, then you can have a really advantageous situation. So when your opponent does play knight to c6, then you can actually kick out both these knights from their respective situations. So if he comes here and this knight, uh, like you can exchange, and then knight will have to take, and then we can kick this knight away from our base. So more likely than not, the opposition knight will go to g6, and once he has gone there, then I can actually push this knight back into the hole as well. And because I have the tempo, I will now, in fact, even defend the wayward queen, and really develop my knight. And I think I'm at a better position than the opposition. Although materially we are really equal, but look at the opposition. A knight that is not supposed to be on the g6 square. It's here, all the way from here, and every other piece is exactly where it was in the beginning of the board, and yeah, one pawn is lost. And look at me, I have two knights out. I have absolute central control, and two of the pawns are on two central square, and the other two central square are protected by covered by the knight, and the pawns are in fact protected by other knight as well. So yeah, this is absolutely brilliant for me to have my opening like this. So in another branch where the reply to playing f4 is given by d6, which is decentish reply, but white has an advantage when black plays d6, as it has always had in the entire Vienna opening that we are seeing. So we'll again play this move, knight to g3. And knight to g3 really ensures that whenever this knight moves away, this side queen attack doesn't really happen. And the opponent can do multiple things, but since we have attacked on the e5 square, the opponent would likely want to defend on the e5 square. So let's assume that, it's a natural move, right? Knight to c6 is not something that I have made up to give you any trap, but rather a natural move that black would have played. And so we'll reply with bishop to b5, just pinning this knight here. And no matter what happens, later on, if the opponent does not decide to exchange it here, then I will exchange it here. And even if the opponent does decide to exchange it here, I'll, some sort of like if he goes up here, then I'll push the pawn up ahead, because I have the option of pushing the pawn up ahead, because this knight is not really attacking me. Although this one does not include many traps, but we'll still discuss the main line that goes along here. So the main line of the Vienna Gambit, like the Vienna Gambit when I have played it, the best option for black is to defend it with d5. But the problem with d5 is that it is not really a natural move. So although you would see d5 being played at high levels every time white offers the Vienna Gambit, but at the beginning level, d5 is a very unnatural move, and that is why I am just going to show you the entire line around it. So the line goes like this. Uh, the opposition, if we decide to really take on this pawn, then I am trying to kick out the knight, and therefore the knight will directly take on my pawn on e4. It is well guarded as well. Now the entire issue when the knight came here or knight went anywhere, remember the entire issue in the beginning of the video, that is the queen coming on to this file. But if I can somehow bring my, this move is fine, knight to f3. But here we have another move that is queen to f3. And queen to f3 is fine because now when the queen comes, I can play g3 and it won't really damage me. And I have my queen out, so I'm a little safe from the opposition queen than when my queen was on the d1 square. And more likely, the opposition will take on this knight, and I'll just take back on the knight. And from here, the game is more or less equal. You do have a pawn in the center. The opposition has the pawn in the center, but that pawn is both pawns are really alone in their own domain. And so the main line is, to bring this bishop out to castle on the long side and hope that the opposition castles. If the opposition castles on the short side, then it will be a really attacking sort of game because now you can, really push your pawns and have your king safe in one end of the board, and the opposition will do the same. Just bring your pieces out like any normal open. So now let's go back a little more than just playing the Vienna Gambit, but rather when you have played knight to c3, what happens if the opposition tries to play knight to c6? Now you can't really play the Vienna Gambit. Why? Because this pawn is not blocked. The pawn on the f file is not blocked, and that is why this attack and then this pawn, like even if you bring your knight here, then the opposition will play g5 and then really build up the attack on the left side, king side of the board. And that is why if knight to f6 has not been played, then we do not really recommend you to play f4. Rather, have your normal opening. And if the opposition does really try to copy you, then you actually have a good move to play. The good move here is to play queen to g4. Now, why is queen to g4 a good move? Because you are now attacking this pawn and then this rook. And there are the best move for black actually at this point is to move king to f8. Sorry, but king to f8 is such an unnatural move that no one will really defend this pawn by moving this king. Rather, I think you all can see that option. Queen to f6 looks like a better option, doesn't it? It's defending this pawn as well, and not even defending this pawn, but trying to deliver this scholar mate style check on the f2 square. So can I actually defend this entire thing? Like I think I am in trouble. A queen and a bishop targeting my f pawn is a real trouble time for both black and white. So how do we deal with it? Well, the solution is simply to ignore. Um, you completely ignore what the opposition is trying to do, and you play your own move. You play knight to d5. Knight to d5 also kicks out the queen, but the opposition does want to take on this pawn, and I don't have any problem by the opposition taking on this pawn because I can simply move away. The opposition cannot deliver me a checkmate because my bishop is sitting here. In fact, like since I have my move right now, I can see that there is this fork that is hanging, and there is this pawn that is hanging. What can the opposition do? Can the opposition, really try to defend? Maybe they try to defend it by playing d6, or maybe playing this pawn out. But I can always have that pawn, so I don't really have a problem. I'll just play this. Queen can come here and then really attack the rook because the bishop was trying to attack the queen. And at this point, like the opposition is really stuck as to what to do. Maybe he'll try to bring his knight out and really deliver me a good attack. But honestly, it doesn't really matter right now because I have a really good position. And later on, what I can try to do is bring my knight here and then try to attack the queen. If the opposition does try to take on my knight, then I'll bring my rook here. And now the queen can't move away. Why can't the queen move away? Because the rook will be attacking on the f7 square, and the queen is also attacking on the f7 square, and then things might turn devastating. So let's just try to see what will happen. So, for example, if this bishop does come here and try to attack on my knight, all I'll do is bring my knight out. What will happen? The queen is being kicked away. And what will the opposition do? The opposition might, if it does decide to take on the knight, will not even take back the bishop, but rather will push the queen away. because pushing the queen away means entry to the f7 square. And unlike the opposition, it is not just a one, it's not just a single check, but rather a series of checkmate. A series of force check that leads to a checkmate. So if the opposition does do this, and I try to push the queen away, and the queen goes there, then that is it. The game is done. I'll deliver him a beautiful checkmate. I'll give him this check, and he can go only here. I'll come above, and yeah, wherever you go, the only option available to you is knight to d7, king to d7, and there I'll bring my rook in as well, and you can come here. I mean, you do have some options now. One option is to bring this knight here. The other is to bring this knight here, or the other is to bring the king here. Let's say the king comes here, then I can obviously deliver this checkmate in two different styles. Maybe knight to f4 checkmate, or maybe knight takes c7 checkmate. Both are simple discovery checks. This one is a checkmate, and so is this. In the other line of it as well, if any knight comes in, then you can obviously see that we still can deliver any checkmate. Knight to f6 is a checkmate, and I mean this entire line where bishop tries to take on the knight. Sorry, bishop tries to take on the knight, and then the queen moves away. It's just doomed for black. In fact, black was doomed a lot of moves ago. Let's try to find where was black doomed. So the moment black decided to the moment black decided to come on to the f2 square and really allow me to attack on this pawn and also bring in my knight, that is when black was doomed for this game, and he could not have defended the game. Either save your checkmate and give me a lot of material, or have the game done there and then. And I mean, you might consider, different scenarios as well. Um, like, for example, here, instead of playing maybe d6, what if the opposition tried to play g6? And then, even now, although I cannot now target the rook, but I can still try to push this queen away. And the funny part is that this queen does not have any square safe on this file. It cannot take on this pawn. This entire file is gone. The only safe square for the queen right now is d4. And just look at d4. This move d3 really blocks the queen from moving anywhere. The queen is now trapped. Although the queen is not attacked, but the queen is trapped on the d4 square, and that is the most fun part about playing the Vienna game. These loopholes, these potholes are what I really like about it. And eventually, I can play c3 and gobble up the queen. In fact, this fork is also hanging. This pawn, the pawn on f7 square is also hanging, and I will eventually bring my queen to the f file and then attack here. And so white has a lot of attack options, and black can't defend every single one of them. So again, g6 is not something that will not work out. There is one more option, really bringing the knight to here, so that when I really attack it here, then the rook can attack me back. But the entire problem is that this knight is hanging. I mean, the queen isn't really defending the knight, is it? So then again, we have a fork, and there's nothing black can do. Black is absolutely losing at this point. Really going back a little, the opposition might not even respond with queen to f6. It also has the option of replying with g6. Now, the problem with g6 is that this queen is pretty useless on g4 square now. The queen isn't doing anything, but the queen can become a liability now. Why? Because, well, king and queen are actually a huge liability. Because the moment they are attacked, we need to defend them. And I can see that this double attack is coming up. The pawn attacking the bishop and the bishop attacking the queen. And that is why you really need to move this queen away. Move the queen away anywhere. Move it to g3, move it to f3. Moving it to f3 is actually better because you can attack on the f7 pawn. But yeah, move it back to g3, or maybe just bring it home. Do anything. And if you do this, then again, the opposition will bring out his knight, and you also would want to bring out your own knight, and uh, just try to have the setting as solid as possible. So let's go back again. and really see if this bishop on the c5 square didn't even come out, but rather the knight came out. The knight came out is more popular because everyone wants knight before bishop. The problem here is that if you play something very random, let's say you played knight to f3, then you might be in a little problem because the opposition can actually take on the e4 pawn, and the moment you take this knight back, I'll surprise you with a fork, and you can't really handle this fork at all, and you will eventually lose your bishop or your knight. Although the opposition did give his knight as well, but this position gets really tricky for white to play in because I mean after this is followed, and you are actually losing here because the best move for you is actually to go back and try to attack this queen, and then the queen will go back, and the opposition will develop his bishop and everything, and the entire end line is that the opposition will have more central control than you do. So yeah, do not actually if the opposition does give you his knight for free, you do have the option of taking on the knight, but you also have the option of playing queen to e2, sorry. And if he takes, then take back, and you have this square, this pawn to take. Yeah, you have two attackers. The queen is on the e2 square, and the knight is on the f3 square. So yeah, let's in fact prevent the knight e4 idea at all. Like when you have made these moves and you have brought your bishop out and this knight is out, don't make any random move like knight to f3, but rather try to save on this pawn because this pawn is something that he'll take and then give me a four. And why do worsen of my situation? Now, this will most likely be followed by bishop to c5. And the moment that happens, you can again go back to your gambit style. And if he can take, then you simply recapture, and you are good at development. So that is it for today, guys. This was the Vienna opening. There are a lot of traps out there in the Vienna opening. In fact, one or two even in this position as well. I urge you to look upon them on the internet, and in fact, try to play Vienna opening. It's one of the most trappy openings out there, and you would definitely enjoy it playing it at a beginner level. If you like this video and want to watch more such content, do subscribe to the channel. And if you want to watch anything in particular, do drop us a comment, and we will definitely make a video on it. Thank you.